Boker Tov, good morning, everybody, and happy Erev Shabbat Shalom, Parashat Tisa. Thank you very much to Mordechai and Raya for hosting and broadcasting this year. Kabbalah, all of you and to all of us. Thank you for joining us. There was once a curious child that goes to his father and says to him, "Dad, where do we come from?" He starts telling him, "Well, it's complicated. We started off with monkeys, and slowly but surely it became human beings." This answer was not enough for the child. So he goes to his mom and he says, "Mom, where do we come from?" So she says to him, "Wow, it all began, beginning of the world, with Adam Arishon and Chava, Adam and Eve, and the history of the people, and we've been told till we're here, you and I are here." So he says to her, "Yes, but Daddy told me that we come from monkeys, and so this interesting story." So she said, "Don't worry. He was telling you about his side of the family, and I was telling you about mine." Something very strange happened a short while after Hashem gave us the Torah. Only 40 or 39 days after we got the Torah, a small portion of Am Yisrael, only 3,000 people from within about 3 million, committed the gravest sin of all, the sin of the golden calf. Until today, Hashem punishes for that sin. It's really hard to understand how Am Yisrael was able to do that. But that was an all-time low. That was a sin. Not only was a terrible thing to serve idols, but it was soon after Hashem said, "Lo yeh lecha elokim achirim al panai." You should not have foreign gods. And only but 40 days later, they can commit that terrible sin. It's very difficult to understand. But when Moshe came down and he saw them dancing around the golden calf, he was so upset, he took the luchot, the tablets, and he threw them to the ground and they smashed into smithereens. Now, that's also difficult to understand. Good people. And to treat Hashem and treat the Torah in the right way, then it's not meant for you. Just going to put it away. It's not, you're not worthy of it. So why did he break it? Why did he break the answer really lies in a very, very interesting statement. The statement is that when Moshe came down from Har Sinai, he could not figure out how was it possible that Am Yisrael committed such a sin. And he realized that, at least from their perspective, their motivation was that they said, we need to have a physical, tangible connection with Hashem. It's not enough to have the spirituality and to have all of the high levels of the sfirot and the spiritual realms. They said, we need to have a physical connection, which will bridge our relationship with Hashem. And they brought a few examples for that. They said, look, Moshe Rabbeinu told us before the giving of the Torah, giving us the Moshe said himself, Anochi haomed bein Hashem ubeinechem. I stand between Hashem and you. Also, the Keruvim, the cherubs on the Aron HaKodesh, on the Holy Ark. Also, that was an indication that you had a physical, materialistic entity which himself to us. It's through we need to have this tangible connection. So what was the problem? Moshe related to them, maybe without words, but so it's true that one needs to have some kind of tangible relation, something that we can hold on to, something we can relate to in connecting us with Hashem. But their mistake was that it cannot be human made. It cannot be man made. It has to come from Hashem. If Hashem tells us, here is a person, Moshe Rabbeinu, a tzaddik, or if Hashem says, here is the Kruvim, here are the Kruvim, the Aron HaKodesh, that through this you can be connected to me, then it's okay. But we cannot make this up. We cannot make up how it's possible for a human being or a calf, God forbid, or gold, anything materialistic, that should be our connection with Hashem. That's called Avodah Zarah. That's called idol worship. And so Moshe wanted to shake them up. He did not break the luchot out of anger. That's not Moshe. Moshe is not a person that does things at a knee-jerk reaction. Moshe wanted to shake them up and say, you've crossed the red line. You are not worthy to have this great Torah. And he made them have a busha. Busha is an embarrassment. And that's really the key word for what we're going to talk about right now. It says that they saw ki boshesh Moshe loredet minahar. Moshe, the meaning is, not the translation, the meaning is that he waited. He did not come in the right time. It took him extra time. But the literal translation of boshesh is like busha. Busha is an embarrassment. When someone's embarrassed of something, then you hold off. You sort of get curled up into your own entity. There are two types of busha. There are two types of shame. There is an inner type of shame, and there is an external type of shame. There is one type of shame that someone may be embarrassed from others. Oy vey, what's that person going to think of me if I do this and that? It could be with a mitzvah, and it could be with a sin. It could be, we'll see soon a story I'll be able to share with you hopefully soon, where you'll see the idea of someone being like embarrassed to do a mitzvah. Or for example, I'm giving you now a shir just on a nice bench that I found outside when I'm driving around. And there are people walking around, people driving, looking at me, which is fine, nothing to be embarrassed about, but it's not the most comfortable feeling, let's say it so. So that's an embarrassment of a shame, for example, from people outside. Then you have a different type of shame. That's an inner shame. It's also busha, it's also an embarrassment, but it's pnimit. It's an inner type of shame. What does that mean? Let's say someone is wants to do something wrong. And then they say to themselves, 1 second, I can't do this. I am this. Excuse me, please. I have an neshama from Hashem. I could never do this. It would be an embarrassment to Hashem if I would do this. Now, is there someone outside that's going to see him? No. Actually, today you never know. There are these internal hidden cameras wherever you go. Ayin Ra'ah, there's an eye that sees. But many times, obviously, a person is within the privacy of their own domain. And it's a very special concept to be able to say, I'm going to control myself because I cannot allow Hashem, who gave me my neshama, to witness that which I want to do. So that's called busha pnimit. He was a very rich man in a big city in Russia. It was St. Petersburg. And he once had a temptation. He said, no way. How can I ever do something like that? I am the chassid of the Alter Rebbe. Inner busha, inner embarrassment, that saved him from doing something wrong. There's an amazing insight which says as follows. There are two ways that you can crack an egg. Either someone external cracks the egg, or it internally becomes cracked on its own. If someone else cracks the egg, then at that point, life ends. However, if the egg cracks from an inner power, an inner energy, then life begins. Then you have a chick that starts to be alive. But if someone else cracks it, there's no way that there's going to be life from that. Life ends. And so you have this external busha, external shame, which is okay, but it's not real. That, God forbid, can break a person. If someone, for example, if their shame becomes publicized to others, then God forbid, that can end the life. But if someone has Torah busha, Torah shame, an inner shame of kedusha, then that can bring a person to life. That's the key of what we're trying to explain today. That we're trying to use an opportunity of breaking, which can be interpreted as shame, but because it comes from a Torah perspective, then that allows the individual to grow from it, to start a life, to continue a life. Until the scenario of the sin of the golden calf, the connection between Hashem and Am Yisrael was self-understood. Hashem split the sea. He worried for us for everything. He was concerned, and He took care of us for everything we needed. He gave us the Torah. Am Yisrael said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will hear, we will learn. But after the sin of the golden calf, which revealed an unwanted, an undesirable level of point of Am Yisrael, over here was revealed a much deeper relationship between Hashem and Am Yisrael. This euphoria of this honeymoon after the marriage between Hashem and Am Yisrael at the giving of the Torah, until the sin of the golden calf, was nice and emotional and inspiring. But after the challenges came to the surface, that then was revealed a whole other deeper relationship between Hashem and us. When Moshe broke the Luchot and it seemed to be breaking, and he caused Am Yisrael to be embarrassed with their actions, he succeeded to return them and to renew a renewed, deeper relationship that they did not have beforehand. Then it became Kesher Shal Kayama. Like the Alter Rebbe says in the Tanya, that every mitzvah is compared to a thread. What happens if someone Chalila violates a mitzvah? And the thread becomes disconnected. So how do you reconnect? It's not enough to make one knot, because one knot can easily be opened. You have to make a double knot. When you make the double knot, then the two sides of the thread will not be detached. That's the same thing. When we reconnect to Hashem, and in a stronger way, in a deeper way, then that double knot of the teshuvah becomes a help for us, stronger than ever before. And that Tzemach Tzedek says something fascinating. He says the four letters busha, which is shame, which is bet, vav, shin, and hey, are the same letters as shuvah, shin, vav, vet, hey, which is return. So if you have the true deeper level of the busha, of not just because what's someone else going to think, sometimes it works, but that's not the real stuff. The real busha, the real shame, which Moshe tried to bring Am Yisrael to, was an inner level of busha, that should re-strengthen the relationship between Hashem and Am Yisrael. Now, there are a lot of people, when they view the concept of busha and inner shame, they associate it with a weakness. If you're strong, if you're a chaverman, you're a cool guy, you're a macher, then you're good. Then you're ashamed. If you're embarrassed, then that's weakness. And this is going to complete the subject which you talked about up until now. The truth is that real inner busha is not a weakness. On the contrary, it's a strength. If someone is able to look at themselves, not because someone else is going to think something wrong about them, because one in themselves understands and feels that this is not right what they're doing, and that is an inner busha, an inner embarrassment, and that is a strength. It's funny that when Moshe in our parsha asks Hashem to forgive Am Yisrael for the terrible sin, he says, "Why should you forgive them?" Here the Hebrew text: Ki am kishei orefhu v'salachta. Since this nation is stiff-necked, therefore v'salachta, therefore you should forgive them. That doesn't need to make any sense. The whole reason why what brought them to doing this sin was that they were so full of themselves and they had so much ego. So why would Moshe say Ki am she'orafuf, because they are stiff-necked? It's much better to say because they are soft, because they are understanding. Moreover, it says if someone does not have self-busha, there are three signs that Am Yisrael, someone is from Am Yisrael. One of them is a person is Baishanim, that they are that we are Am Yisrael, we are soft, we are ashamed. Not sure if that's the right word. We're shy. This is the right word. We are very kind. We're rachmanim. We're merciful. So why would Moshe say, forgive them because of the problem what brought them to this sin? Doesn't seem to make any sense. And the answer is, it depends how you view what kind of shame we're talking about. If you're talking about shame which comes from something external, like we said earlier, then it's not necessarily a good thing. But sometimes having the proper level of embarrassment and busha really is the greatest strength you can ever have. That's the greatest tokef, chozek in kedusha. If a person has an inner objects of Torah, then that is the greatest strength. And like the story that I'm going to tell you that I alluded to earlier, that there was once a shaliach that had to travel from place to place, and he had to stop over the stopover flight in, let's say, in I'm not sure exactly which country it was, but I think it was Turkey, where there were many Muslims there. And so the shliach is walking around and wants to do like a good Chabadnik, wants to put on the tefillin and give someone a zechut. And he's looking for a Jewish face. So he sees someone with a Jewish nose, as they say, and he says to him in Hebrew, Shalom achi, ha'im yatsa lecha laniach tefillin? Did you have a chance to put on tefillin, my dear brother? My dear Israeli brother? No. My dear brother? And so he says, no, I don't want to do the tefillin. It's here in front of everybody? He says, yeah, we'll go over to the side. Don't worry, you don't have to feel embarrassed from other people. So the guy, it wasn't enough for the person that the rabbi wanted to put on tefillin with him on the side. He says, no, I don't need to do the tefillin. So the rabbi sat down and was learning. Then he feels a tap on his shoulder. That's that gentleman, the Jew that he had approached earlier. And he said, I'd like to please put on the tefillin, not on the side, but right here. So he was very happy. Put on the tefillin. He said the Shema out loud. Some people clapped. Some people, tried to shut him down. What are you doing? What are you saying? And so afterwards, the rabbi asked him, why did you all of a sudden change your mind, not only to put on the tefillin, but not on the side, rather in front of everybody? So he says, I'll tell you, after you asked him to put on tefillin, I saw that a number of the Muslims, they were unrolling their carpets and doing their prayers, unembarrassed, and just doing what they need to do. And I said, I'm going to be embarrassed? If they are not embarrassed, how can I be embarrassed? And he said, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, in front of everyone. And that is something that we can learn from the negative action of what was done with a Chet HaEgel, with a sin of the golden calf. We are not allowed to have a negative type of shame, rather a proud shame, a shame which brings us to do more mitzvot, to learn more Torah, and to be proud of who we are. And that is the best way if a person, unfortunately, has a challenge and goes through a difficult time and makes a mistake and does a sin, through having proper busha, an inner embarrassment, an embarrassment of kedusha, that's not a weakness. On the contrary, that's the greatest strength, and that can help a person to be on the highest levels. That's why it says in the Medrash something fascinating, that Moshe was, after he broke the luchot, he regretted what he did. And Hashem said, don't regret it. Rather, the first luchot, as great as they were, they only had 10 commandments. But now, the fact that I'm going to give you the second luchot, the second set of tablets, you're going to receive the entire Tanakh, the Torah Shebichtav, the written Torah, the Torah Shebal Peh, the oral Torah. In other words, through the fact that a person goes through a challenge, and then they step up to the plate and they're able to step up above and to do teshuvah, through having an inner embarrassment, inner busha, to be able to do teshuvah, we have so much more afterwards, so many more brachot, and so many more gifts. Just like we said earlier, that instead of having that one thread, you make a double knot, which that represents all of the additional blessings that Hashem gives us through the fact that we sincerely, in an inner way, really have a deeper connection with Hashem. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm happy to tell you that after Pesach, we're going to be having Kabbalah Café in person, Bezrat Hashem, at 9:30 every morning. Every Friday morning. I'm not sure the exact time actually, but I've arranged it yesterday that it's going to be in Rechavia at the Bagel Cafe at the corner of Karen Kayemet and Ibn Ezra. So I look forward to seeing you. It's going to be very wonderful to be able to go out in the outside, in an open area, to be able to learn together for about a half hour. And we'll be in touch, Bezrat Hashem, about the time, the exact time. But tonight we have Mincha at 5 after 5. Tomorrow morning, learning Chassidut at 9 o'clock, 9:30 is davening, followed by a great Kiddush given by Binyamin Ephraim Aronson, who just made an Aliyah, the father of Chaim Leb. And we're looking forward to seeing all of you, Bezrat Hashem, this Shabbat. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Looking forward to seeing all of you, especially in a week and a half, Wednesday, March 2nd, for the big Hachanasat Sefer Torah. Shalom, shalom, and Shabbat shalom.